Section 3.3 Circles. In the last section we talked about a special two-variable equation that resulted in lines. In this section we're going to talk about circles. Okay, so let's get started. The equation of a circle has the form we have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. Okay, where h and k is the center of the circle and r is the radius. So from geometry you know what a circle is. Circle is a collection of all points that are equidistant from a fixed point called the center, and the equal distance is called the radius. So it's a collection of all points that are equidistant from the center, from a fixed point called the center, and the fixed distance is called the radius. If I go from one end of the circle to the other passing through the center, then I get something called the diameter. So this is called the diameter. So we know that the diameter d will be twice the radius. Or you can say the radius is the diameter divided by 2, or d is equal to 2r. You can see that from the picture. So what is a circle? A circle is a collection of all points that are equidistant from a fixed point called the center, and that equidistance is called the radius. The equation of a circle is given by this, okay, where h and k are the coordinates of the center, r is the radius. Okay, now to find the equation of a circle, okay, we basically need to find this thing. Okay, now also before I go any further, remember what an equation is in two variables. In this case, equation of a circle is a collection of all points, like this point x and y, that lives on the circle that satisfies this equation. So the equation of a circle is a collection of all points, okay, that satisfy this equation. To find the equation of a circle, you always need to know the center and you need to know the radius. Just like to find the equation of a line, we need to know the slope and the point. We need two things. Out here we also need two things. So let me write that down. Note: to find the equation of a circle, we need to know the center and the radius of the circle. Okay, so that's what we need to know to find the equation of a circle. So anytime they ask you to find the equation of a circle, the first thing you should ask yourself is, have they given me the center and have they given me the radius? If they have, all you have to do is plug in those values into this equation and you're done. That gives you the equation of a circle. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how to do that. Let's look at some typical problems that we can come across when we have with circles. Okay, so here's the first example. Okay, let's say find the equation of a circle whose center is at -2, 3 and whose radius is 5. So let's do that. So they have asked us for the equation of a circle. Okay, alright, so we need to know the center and the radius. They've given us the center, I'll call it C, which is -2, 3, and they've given us a radius r, which is 5. The center coordinates, instead of calling them x and y, they call them h and k, but h is the x value of the center and k is the y value of the center. We know everything, we just have to plug it into our equation of a circle. Okay, so equation of a circle is given by this: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. That is, you can think of it as a formula. That is a formula to find the equation of a circle. Replace h and k with what we know. Since h is negative, I'll put extra parentheses, just good habits. We get y minus 3 squared is equal to 5 squared. And then we can clean this up a little bit. We get x plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to 25. And there's your answer. It's as simple as that. If you know the center and the radius, that's all we need to do. Okay, we don't need to expand this. We don't need to do that formula a plus b, the binomial squared formula, and expand that. We don't need to do that. This is all we need to do. Let's take a look at a little bit harder problem. So let's say find the equation of a circle whose endpoints of the diameter are -3, -5, and 6, 7. Okay, so let's just take a look at it. So we have something like this. We have a circle and whose endpoints of the diameter goes from one end of the circle to the other, passing through the center. This point is -3, -5, and this point is 6 and 7. So how do I find the equation of a circle? As soon as you see this, what did we talk about? We need to know the center and the radius. Have they given us either one of those values this time? No. But they've given us enough information to find those. For example, you can clearly see the center is the midpoint of these 2 points. So if I call this P and Q, center must be the midpoint of P, segment PQ. So we know that C is equal to the midpoint of PQ. Okay, so how do I find C? We use the midpoint formula. If you recall, the midpoint formula is what? You take the average of the x values divided by 2. You take the average of the x values and the average of the y values. The average of the x values is what? The sum of the x values divided by 2. And the average of the y values is the sum of the y values divided by 2. So if you want, you can label these points x1, y1, x2, y2. And you can plug them in. So we get x1, which is negative, so let's put parentheses, plus x2, which is 6 divided by 2, y1, which is negative also, plus 7 divided by 2. I'll do it over here. So we get -3 plus 6 is 3 over 2. -7 plus 2 is 2 over 2. So this tells me what is my center then? My center would be 3/2 and 1. So those are my coordinates of the center, but that's not what I was supposed to find. I'm looking for the equation of a circle, but we needed that along the way. Now the next thing I need to do is find the radius, because I need center and the radius. To find the radius, I have 3 options. Okay, one is, now that I know the center, which is 3/2, 1, I can find this distance using the distance formula. That'll be my radius. Or I can find this distance using the distance formula, and that'll be my radius. Or I can find this whole distance, that'll be my diameter, and then to get the radius, what do? We take the diameter and divide it by 2. So that's the option I'm going to go for. I'm going to find the entire distance first, PQ, and then divide that by 2. So let's do that. So my radius is going to be my diameter divided by 2. Okay, and my diameter is going to be the distance PQ. That's what my diameter is. So it'll be 1/2 times the square root of, I'm using the distance formula, x2 minus x1 squared, the difference of the x value squared, plus the difference of the y value squared, and you take the square root of that. The half comes from because we want to take half of the diameter. So let's plug in our values. We've already labeled them x1, x2, and so on. So let's just plug them in. x1 is negative 3 and x2 is 6. So we get 6 minus of minus 3 squared plus y2 is negative 5. I'm sorry, y2 is 7 minus y1 is negative 5 squared. So we get 1 over 2 times the square root of 6 plus 3 squared plus 7 plus 5 squared. Okay, so we get 1/2 times the square root of 9 squared plus 12 squared. So we get 1/2 times the square root of 81 plus 144. I'll just do that on the side here. Well, I should go down. So we get that. So my radius is 1/2 times the square root of, you just add these numbers up. Okay, so we get 225. Okay, so we get 5 carry 1. Nope, that's not 2. I'm sorry, 5 and 80. I'm sorry, 144 and 81 is 225, and we know that square root of 225 is 15. So there's my radius. Okay. Now that I know my radius, I can find the equation of a circle, which is given by this formula: x minus 8 squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. We always use this to find the equation of a circle. This is my h and k, this is my h 3/2, and my k is 1, and my radius is 15 over 2. So I get x minus 3/2 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 15 over 2 squared. So we just need to, there's nothing to clean up in terms of signs on the inside, but we can square the radius, which is 225 over 4. So there is your equation of a circle. Okay, so to find the equation of a circle, always remember you need a point and a radius. And then if you wanted to graph this or something like that, it's not that difficult to do. To graph a circle, the radius, I'm sorry, the center is at 3, 2 and 1, 1.5 and 1. So this is 1, 2, 3. So 1.5 would be here and 1 would be here. This is my center. Okay, and my radius is 15 over 2, which is roughly 7.5. So how do I graph a circle? Well, all you need is 4 points to graph a circle. Okay, here's my center, so the radius is 7.5. So if I go 7.5 to the right, I'll get my right endpoint. So what is 1.5 plus 7.5? Okay, that gives you 9. So you'll have to go all the way up to 9. So let's just pretend, just for the sake of argument, this is 9. I know it's not, but just for now. Okay, so this is 7.5. Now to get the other point going the other way, you do the same thing. Okay, you add on the other side, you add values. Okay, so you have 1.5 and then you go 7.5 in this direction, negative 7.5 gives you that. You do the same thing, take the y value this time, which is 1, and you add your radius to it. So if you add 1 plus 7.5, that'll give you a point up here somewhere. This would be 8.5 vertically, because you took 1 and added 7.5. So the coordinates of this will be 1 and 8.5. Okay, the coordinates of this will be 9 and 1. The coordinates of this will be negative 7.5 and 1. And then do the same thing going down. We're going to take 1 and add 7.5, so it'll be 6.5 down here somewhere. So it'll be 1.5 and 6.5. This will be 1.5. And then if you connect these, I know it might not look pretty here because I did not scale this at all, but I'm hoping you guys can figure out how to graph the circle. So if you find those 4 points and you connect them in a circle, even though it looks like an ellipse, it looks oval, but that'll give you the circle. Okay, so we found the equation of a circle in two different examples here. So just make sure that you know the center and the radius. You plug it into this little handy dandy equation and you get your equation of a circle. The next type of problem you could have is they could ask you to find the center and the radius given the equation of a circle. And majority of the times in math, this is the way we will work with circles mainly. Okay, they'll give us the equation of a circle and we want to know the center and the radius mainly. We don't want to do the other way around. With lines, we do want to find the equation of a line. We do want to do that. But with circles, we are mainly interested in this question. So let me give you a couple examples of this. So let's say if I give you this, if you have x squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 36. I want to find the center and the radius. Anytime you're given an equation of a circle, you just compare that to the standard form, which is what? X minus 8 squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So you just compare that to that. Well, I have x minus 8 squared. I have just x squared, so h must be 0. I have y here, y here. I have minus k is 2. So if minus k is 2, what is k? Then k must be negative 2. We know that. And then from this, when you compare, we have r squared is equal to 36. Square and a number, so we take square roots on both sides. So we get r is equal to plus or minus 6. But since we're talking about radius, radius always has to be positive. It's distance. So we'll just take the positive 6. We know the center, we know the radius. So in this case, the center is h and k. So it's 0 and negative 2. And the radius is 6. So that's how we do that for that one. If you're given the equation of a circle, you can easily find that. Now this is the equation of a circle in standard form. What if it was given to us in general form? In general form, what they do is they take the same equation. Okay, and let's say we expand this. What does that mean? You take y plus 2 squared. That means you can, this is a binomial, two things added squared, so you can use the formula, the binomial formula that we did in chapter 1, or you can do this. You can take y plus 2 times y plus 2. You can multiply, distribute, and multiply, like we're multiplying this base twice because of the square. So you can do it two different ways. I'm just going to use the binomial squared method because that's faster. So to do that, you square the first, plus you take 2 times the first times the second term of the binomial. So you take this times this is 2y and you multiply that by 2, so you get 4y. And then you square the last term, which is 2 squared is 4, which is 36. You move the 36 to the left, so you get x squared plus y squared plus 4y minus 32 is equal to 0. So we call this the general form of the equation of a circle, because we've expanded everything out and we moved everything to one side. So either the equation of a circle could be given to you in this form, in the standard form, okay, or they could expand these guys out and they could give you an equation in general form, something like this. Okay, so there's a couple different ways to represent an equation of a circle, but the standard form is usually the preferred method. Okay, so let me give you this example now. I want to find the center and the radius of the following circle. We have x squared plus y squared minus 2x plus 6y minus 100 is equal to 0. So you can see this is a circle because of the 2 squares here. This is like the giveaway here, and they would have to tell you that because it technically could be an ellipse or something too, but for now let's assume it's a circle. And I want to find the center and the radius. So basically, what did I tell you in the previous problem? You want to compare this to this. If I can compare these two equations, I can easily extrapolate the center and the radius. So how do I do that? Well, clearly when you look at these two equations, what sticks out? The x terms are squared and the y terms are squared. So I want to do what? Complete the squares. We did that in the section on quadratic equations, if you recall. So we're seeing the idea of completing the squares again. So let's do that. So to complete the squares, there was only one requirement. The leading coefficient of the square terms had to be 1, which they are in this case, so we're good. Okay, so what do we want to do next then? Well, let's take a look at it and see what we want to do next. We want to basically complete the squares for the x, and we also want to complete the squares for the y. So let's do that. So we have x squared minus 2x. If you recall, to complete the squares we added something, right? What was the term we added, the magic number? We took the middle term b, divided it by 2 and squared it. That's what we added. So my middle term is what? Negative 2. So I can take negative 2 divided by 2 and square it. Since we're adding that, we also have to subtract that same term. So that's done. Now we complete the squares for the y. So we have plus y squared plus 6y. Once again, I'm going to take the middle term, which is 3 over 2, and square it. Since I'm adding that, I'm also going to have to subtract that. And then I still have the minus 100 is equal to 0. So we're trying to complete the squares for the x term and the y. Complete the squares for x and y, just to be absolutely clear. So now these three terms, because of this nice magic number we added, can be written as a square. And how do we write that as a square? We always write it as x plus b over 2 squared. So what is b over 2? b over 2 is this quantity on the inside, so it's negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So it'll be x plus b over 2 minus 2 over 2, and you square that, plus the y can be written as y plus b over 2, and you square that. All I'm taking is a b over 2, and then let's write down what's left, because I still have this left, and this left. So let's write down negative 2 divided by 2 is minus 1. Minus 1 squared is just 1, so you get negative 1. 3 divided by I'm sorry, this should be a 6, not a 3. I don't know why I did that, because the middle term is 6. Okay, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So these three terms are completed. We have an extra term, so we have minus 9 minus 100 is equal to 0. Okay, alright, so we got that. Let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit. So we get x, negative 2 divided by 2 is minus 1, so we get minus 1 squared, plus y plus 3 squared, because 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then let's add these guys up. So this gives me minus 110. I can move that 110 to the right hand side, because I want to get it into the standard form, where and there we go, we got it into the standard form. So let's compare that to the standard form. So you get x minus 8 squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, and this should be 110. Okay, so let's take a look at it. We have, if you compare this, I have xx minus h is equal to minus 1, so h must be 1. Out here we have y minus k is equal to 3, so k must be minus 3. And out here we have r squared is equal to 110, so square and a number, so you take square roots on both sides, so we introduce plus or minus square root of 110, so r must be just square root of 110, because we are talking about distance. R is a distance, so we don't need to worry about the negative number. And this cannot be broken down further. It would be nice if it could, but it cannot be broken down any further, so that is going to be our answer. Okay, alright, so my center is at hk 1 minus 3, and our radius is square root of 110. Remember, with radicals, if you can break the radical down, we should always try to break it down further. Okay, alright, let me do one more example of this, just to kind of drive home the point. If they give you the equation of a circle in general form, let's say like this, you have x squared plus y squared plus 8x plus 7 is equal to 0. and they want you to find the center and the radius. So let's do that. So what I want to do is I want to complete the squares, because if I can complete the squares, okay, then I can make it look like this, like I see I did up here in this problem. Then I can make it look like my standard form, and then I can figure out my h and k quickly, and then my radius. So let's do that. In this case, I take x squared. To complete the squares, the leading coefficients of the square terms have to be 1. And we only need to complete the squares for x because there's no y term here. There's just an x term here, 8x. So let's do that, plus 8x. So we're going to add the middle term, which is 8 divided by 2 squared. And then we're also going to subtract 8 divided by 2 squared. Remember, we always add and subtract. Then you have plus y squared plus 7 is equal to 0. I'm just copying this term down and this term. I can't complete the squares for y because I don't have. To complete the squares, you at least need to know the first two terms. Once you know these two, then you can add the magic number to complete it. We don't have that middle terms to complete here. So now these three terms can be written as a square. So it's x plus b over 2. So it'll be 8 over 2 squared. And then I have plus y squared. I'm going to write this next, and I'm going to write this next. 8 divided by 2 is 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So you get minus 16 plus 7 is equal to 0. Now I have one last step. 8 over 2 is 4. So you get x plus 4 squared plus y squared minus 9 is equal to 0. And I'll just move that 9 over to the right hand side because that's what we need to do to make it look like the standard form. So if you compare this now to the standard form, which is this, you can extrapolate these values very quickly. I have negative h is equal to 4, so I have negative h is equal to 4, so h must be minus 4. I have y squared here, so k must be 0 here, because there's no term to the right in that square there. And then we have r squared is equal to 9, square and a number equal, so you take square roots, so we get r is equal to plus or minus 3. So r is equal to just 3 since the radius has to be positive. So my center is negative 4 and 0, and the radius is 3. So I'm hoping these examples have given you the idea of what the equation of a circle is and how to find the equation of a circle, and also how to find the center and the radius if you're given the equation of a circle. Okay, so those are the couple different types of problems. So in the future, the main thing you have to take away from this section is, in the future, if you see an equation like this, x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 9, you should be able to tell right away, oh, this is a circle because you have some x times something squared plus y plus something squared is equal to 9. That should tell you that that is the equation of a circle. That's all you really need to take away from this section. If you see an equation of two variables that looks like this, you should right away know that is the equation of a circle, and then you should be able to find the center and the radius.